All right, we're live. We are live. All right, let me do a little editing here and then we're going to get started. All right, tight. Just this. Sure the sound is good. I think we're good. All right, let me do a little editing and we're going to get into it. We're going to get into it, people. All right, hang tight. Get this nonsense out the way. Hang tight, hang tight. All right. All right, hang tight. All right. All right, almost there, almost there. All right, I think we're good. All right. All right. All right, all right, all right. Almost there. It's 12. Let's just see. All right, we good. All right, I want to welcome everybody to the show. All right. Just going to give it a couple minutes, get some more people up in here. I'm going to run through some quick announcements that I usually do. Run dates for the rest of the month, classes and the ritual for the end of the month. I'm going to run through that in a minute. Also want to put out there, as you've seen, if you follow any of the social media platforms, again, right now we are live here on YouTube, Primordial Chaos YouTube. We are also live on Primordial Chaos 9, all one word. That's on Instagram. And we are also live on Primordial Chaos, 2 words, on Facebook. As you see, I've uploaded and will continue to upload a lot of new content. These videos range anywhere from 20 to 30 minutes on different topics. And they are all uploaded to also the Primordial Chaos Facebook page. And also, which I put an announcement on all the platforms, which something I always forget to mention, there I do have a podcast, Primordial Chaos Podcast, where all the new content is uploaded in audio files on the Primordial Chaos Podcast, which can be found pretty much at any platform that carries podcasts, Spotify. You can go to anchor.fm, Radio Public, etc. Pretty much you can find the podcast, the link. I'm going to actually start putting it in the description, which I got to remember to do that. I'll do that after this video is over. I'll put it in the description box of the video so you can have the audios of a lot of this new content, which is good if a lot of people in the past have always reached out and said, with the first podcast show I had and this one, they like the audio files because they could exercise or drive or just do things around the house and listen to it. So it's good that sometimes just have the audio of it. So that is available. all this new content that is uploaded in the last, several days or so, or a week, is also available on the Primordial Chaos podcast. So I just wanted to put that out there. So check that out. Also, just to run through again, as people reach out, what kind of classes do, or how can I sign up for your classes, or how I can take your classes? Again, the best way to do that, and I'm going to run through the announcement of the rest of this month's classes. The best way to do that is to go to patreon.com/Baniti, Baniti. That's patreon.com/Baniti, Baniti. And tier 3 is the tier you want to join. That will give you access to the 3 classes that I do privately every month on Patreon, only for Patreon members. If you do sign up, not only do you get access to the content just from the day you signed up moving forward, but you also have access to the full archive on that tier since day one, since the channel was formed. So it's a lot of information. It gives you access to a lot of different classes. So that's the best way. That's the way you, because people always send emails, how can I sign up for your classes, this and that. That's how I do them. The classes are done on Patreon outside of the mainstream platforms like like YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and things of that nature. All right. So that's where you want to go for that. And I encourage you to check out tier 3 again, patreon.com/Baniti, Baniti. That's the official Primordial Chaos Patreon page, and tier 3 is the tier you want to join. If you are interested, and again, what I'm saying is going on the ticker at the bottom of the screen. If you are interested in a spiritual reading or a spiritual consultation, again, the ones that I offer, various different ones, clepothic demonic readings, shadow work readings, which is a great place to start if you're looking for, again, direction to go and where do I begin? What should I be doing? Well, shadow work uncovers hidden aspects of the self and things we need to work on. That's the best route to go. A deity reading to see what type of spirits and demons walk with you, not to worship them and not to get spooked out, but to strengthen your connection with those spirits and to strengthen your connection and growth on this path of self-mastery. I offer Egyptian oracle readings, Santa Muerte readings, etc. Shoot me an email that you see going on the bottom of the screen on the ticker, KHNUM19@gmail.com, and I will send you information on how to book a reading or a consultation. Also, we are now officially signing up and registering people for the Black Adept Conference. This will be the 6th annual Black Adept Conference, which will take place the 18th to the 21st, I believe. Let me get those dates right. I'll fuck that up. I'm sorry, the 19th to the 22nd. All right. The 6th annual Journey of the Black Adept Conference. There's 2 ways to participate in that. You can come live and in person, which is a great 4-day event, 3.5, 4 days. It begins on Thursday, October 19th. We have a meet and greet at 7:30 p.m. where we this year we're going to be meeting at a place called the Flashback Diner, which is a pretty cool place. Serves all types of food, breakfast, lunch, dinner. It's open 24 hours. It's kind of a cool place. We'll be meeting there for the meet and greet on Thursday, October 19th. And that gets, we socialize, kick it. Everybody meets each other to get that out of the way so we don't have to do that on the first day because we have a lot to cover. All right. So that's the first day. Meet and greet on Thursday evening, Friday, and Saturday, similar time schedule. From 9 a.m. to 4 p.m., we will be doing different classes and workshops and presentations. We will have different speakers presenting like we've done over the years. And then we will convene and come back after 4 p.m. We will convene and come back at 7:30, 8 o'clock-ish and do our group ritual. And after that, that's followed by we go out, we eat, we hang out, we kick it and have some fun. After both nights. The second night, the working is outdoors. We usually do something on the beach. I'm looking at something at the cemetery this year. We might squeeze in an extra ritual. Might be a little more rituals this year than there's been in the past year. Usually we do 2, but I'm thinking about opening the conference with a ritual like a black mass or something, and some other stuff. But we're getting that together. We are kind of piecing it together slowly but surely. We'll have that full itinerary. Once you register and sign up, like the last previous 2 years, you get a digital itinerary. It's a nice digital itinerary we create. It has the whole, schedule of classes and what we'll be doing. So this way you have it on your phone as you're traveling back and forth from your hotel. It's in very convenient location where we do it in Hollywood, Florida, close to beaches, hotel, transportation. Most people that come, they Uber it because the airport is minutes from where we do it. And hotels, people do Airbnbs. Well, a lot of people in the last couple of years have shifted to doing Airbnbs because they get better deals. I know last year we had a couple of brothers stay within walking distance of cultural expressions in the heart of downtown Hollywood. I forgot the name of the hotel there. Some brothers stayed there. So there's a lot of options, very convenient, and you have access to everything. All right. And then Sunday, we close the event out on the 21st with a question and answer session. Myself will be doing for about 4 hours, whatever you guys want to discuss about the conference or anything. It's just kind of an open session where you can personally kind of get at me if you so choose. Okay. All right. So that's the 6th annual Journey of the Black Adept Conference. Now, if you want to attend it virtually, you can also attend it virtually via Zoom, all the classes, that is. Attending it virtually gives you access to Friday, Saturday, and Sunday's classes if you just want to attend it virtually. So either way, if you're interested, you can sign up and register now. Shoot me an email. I'll send you the cost, the price, how you sign up. So get in now. We're starting that process now. And then that leads me, not to last but not least, the rest of the classes and events for this month on Patreon. Now, you can sign up for these classes individually, which really doesn't make sense. Your better value is just joining Tier 3, and that gives you access for that monthly fee for all 3 classes. It works out a lot cheaper. All right. So the classes left for this month, we have on upcoming Thursday, August 17th, we have Klepothic Sorcery and Magic class number 4, and that'll be 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That's on Thursday, August 17th. And then, why do I feel like we left one now? Okay. And then, because of the way the weekends fall with 5 in this month, we'll do our ritual the following Friday on August the 25th, which is the ritual of the Dicker or the Thicker Circle of the Black Assassins Order. We will be invoking and working and connecting with the energies of Shaitan, Iblis, the Jinn. It'll be through mantras, meditation, and thickers. Information on that, how to prepare for the ritual, the tools you'll need. You must be on Patreon for that, Tier 3 and above, to attend that ritual. That is Friday, August 25th. 8:15 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And then the next day, we finish out the month with Luciferian Magic and Self-Mastery class number 8. That's Saturday, August 26th at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And that will complete August month of events. This ritual at the end of the month, kind of looking forward to it, as I have a personal affection for that path. All right, so what we're going to talk about tonight, you see the title. And again, if you came in late, get the likes up. Definitely get the likes up so we get this information and this algorithm for this video going. Again, just want to put out there again, all the new, if you really follow the channel, you've been getting the notifications. I have started and will continue this throughout the week, posting new content all the time. I will be posting these, as you see, I posted about 12 or 13 this last week, something like that. These 20 to 30 minute videos on specific topics, okay? And as I said, all the new content is available in audio files on the Primordial Chaos podcast. And you can find that on Spotify, Radio Public. You can go to anchor.fm. So all the new content will also be uploaded and is uploaded to the Primordial Cast podcast. I am even taking some of the older, shorter YouTube videos, and I'm going to put them in audio files and also put that content on there too. So a lot of good stuff. All right, so you see the title, Tiamat, Goddess of Primordial Chaos and Creation, right? We haven't done too much videos on Tiamat. I have talked about it over the years, but I figured let's do this tonight. Let's get a little bit more in depth with Tiamat. A lot of people have mentioned, reached out to me over the years. I know a lot of you, some more than others, have established a strong connection with Tiamat. And as some of you, well, 2 years ago at the conference, not last year, the year before, that was our outdoor working we did at the beach with Tiamat and the primordial chaotic waters of Leviathan, which was a really good ritual for those that were there. Some people caught spirits in the water. We're trying to tell them we got to get out the water. Yes, we did something in the water. Some actually a couple people got in the water, as I recall. So let's focus. Let's get into her origins. Let's get into what she is about. And for those that have established that relationship or connection with Tiamat, you see she is very volatile, right? Just as, yes, we hear this all the time, just like most spirits or demons or gods or goddesses are on this path, because that's a little difference of what we do, because there's no filters when we're connecting with these spirits and these energies, right? We're connecting with their raw primal essence, and that's what we want. We don't want those filters. Tiamat is obviously in that pantheon of life altering, and I'm going to go to the length of saying life altering, not just life changing, life altering type of archetypes. You can tap into how rageful she is, because she deals with a lot of rage, a lot of power, a lot of energy and things of that nature, transformational change on levels that putting it into words really don't do it no justice. All right. So infernal blessings to everybody. I will get to your questions. I'm just going to go through some material, so you can go ahead and type your questions and your comments. Well, not all the comments. It's going to be hard for me to get to all the comments. But if you do have questions on this, just be patient with me. I want to cover the material I have. I will get to your questions and your comments that pertain to the class. And please don't ask no spooky shit. Let's try to keep this in alignment with what we're talking about. All right. So let's go into a little bit about her origins, what she's about. Let's get a little more in depth, how we work with her on the occult, what she represents, how we use a lot. See, one thing we have to learn on this path, when you read the mythology, whether it's of ancient Egypt or it's of ancient Sumeria, how do you use the mythology and ritualize it? See, that's what you do as a magician. Because even though when we read these stories, whether it be Tiamat, ancient Egypt, Sumeria, whatever it may be, right? We have to be able to decipher between the literal and allegorical aspects of the knowledge that we're reading. Because some of it is allegorical, some of it is literal, and we apply it. But we also have to look at the esoterical occult meaning of a lot of these things, because your esoterical occult understanding is going to determine how well you perceive that and how well you can transition that into your ritual and your spiritual work. And Tiamat is one of those deities. There's a lot of heavy symbolism there. There's a lot of heavy metaphors. There's deep levels of esoterical meanings to a lot of this information. So there's a book written by Asenath Mason and some other authors that came out. I believe it was 2020. There's 2 parts to it. It's called The Left-Hand Path, Philosophy and Praxis. This is volume 1. And there's a section in there on Tiamat, a few thoughts on Tiamat, which begins on page 49, just for those that need the reference. Okay. Let's go through that. I'm going to read through some of it. We're going to break it down. We're going to discuss it, and then I'll go to your questions. If we look right to the right, it says not. This is from the Magan text of the Necronomicon. Now, some people are really into the Necronomicon, which was made very popular by Lovecraft. And I will seriously tell you this: Lovecraft is a fascinating read. Whether you apply his work ritually or spiritually, or it's just a very intellectually stimulating read. A couple of years ago, I picked up, I think I showed it to you guys on an older video, maybe if I remember before we get off. I picked up a volume of all his work. It's huge. It almost looks like a huge encyclopedia. It was this like hardcover bound copy of majority of his work, and I found it in Barnes and Noble about 3 years ago. And it's a great read. Really nice put together book with all his work. He definitely was tapped in on an occult level to some degree. I've explained to you guys about the Aquaman movie and how that Aquaman movie that came out the one that came out in 2019 with Jason Momoa, I think that's his name. That was heavily influenced by the Call to Cthulhu. They had all overtones in that movie. I did a whole video on this around that time. I broke down the whole Aquaman movie, Leviathan. Check that out if you didn't get a chance to see that video. Just go in the archives. Probably gonna have to scan through a little bit. It's a couple years ago. But it definitely influenced by Lovecraft and the Call to Cthulhu. Takes place in the New England area. They actually show Lovecraft's book in a scene when Aquaman's talking to his father on a pier, and they quickly, show when the camera pans behind Aquaman, there's a ledge, and they show Lovecraft's book there. It's crazy. Definitely was influenced, the producers and writers of that movie, because that deals with the Leviathan energy. It deals with the lost civilization of Mu and Atlantis that is now take residence in the deep void and abyss of the waters. A lot of symbolism there. It's about self-mastery. It's about Aquaman struggling to embrace his divinity and wrestling with his mortality, which is the story of us, right? That's the story of us on this path, right? We're struggling to harmonize our human nature, our mortal self, and be able to tap into our divinity and let the divinity aspect rule ourselves, but still be able to indulge to a degree without being consumed. This is where Tiamat comes in. So reason why I titled this video, Tiamat, Goddess of Primordial Chaos and Creation, because that's what she is, right? When we talk about the primordial mothers, the divine feminine energy, we have to understand and be clear, okay? This planet is ruled by feminine forces and feminine energy. Don't get it twisted. Don't get it fucked up. And it'll stay in chaos as long as men forcefully still try to rule. And I ain't saying this as a feminine and some feminine activist. And I'm not saying this just to get on the good side of females, because I don't operate like that. I'm too old for that shit. I'm not trying to kiss nobody's ass, and I'm not trying to just fluff it up to the females. This is the reality, right? The reality is we live on a planet. We call it Mother Gaia, right? We use terms over the years. How many times have we used these terms or heard friends or family say, like, for an example, we always refer to things in the she form, like our car, she runs like a beauty. Isn't she a beauty? It's always, how is that naturally, instinctively programmed in us? It's not called Father Earth, it's called Mother Earth, okay? We live on a planet from day one that has always been governed and ruled by female forces. And what I'm describing to you is the nature of Tiamat. When the female is pissed off, the household is all fucked up. If you have a family, a spouse, a wife, a girlfriend, a significant other, whatever you want to refer, when the female is not happy, everybody's fucked up. Okay? There's an old saying that we're taught as men, happy wife, happy life, right? It's in history, it's the same thing. Women, 9 out of 10 times, you could look at Cleopatra. You can go through other aspects of history. When the woman isn't happy or the woman isn't given her due justice or her due right, she can destroy civilizations, okay? That's the power of feminine energy. So men for years in history and cultures and civilizations via war and all other forms of control, have forcefully tried to make themselves the rulers of this planet. And that's why the planet is in chaos. And that's why the planet itself now is striking back at those who have disrespected it. And again, I want to be clear. I want to sound like some new age philosopher, but people want to know why global warming. Look at this. This got to be one of the hottest summers ever on the history on record, especially here in the Southeast. Why are people going batshit crazy? Because everybody is going against what they call Mother Nature. And as I said many times going back years ago, there's one thing you can't beat is Mother Nature. She will whip your ass every time. You have to remember, our planet, just like your body, you are a living, breathing entity. And when you get a virus and you get sick, you get a flu, you get a virus or a fever, that naturally your body's defense mechanisms fight it off through that process. And sometimes you can get severely ill. Well, our planet is severely ill now. And I'm not saying that from save the earth, let's run through the fucking grass fields butt naked, chewing on pistachios and shit and holding hands singing Kumbaya. But we have to protect our planet and respect it and take care of it, or we're going to be killing and destroying ourselves. Global warming, greenhouse gas effects. This is why we're seeing this. And politicians are trying to lie and bullshit us and pretend like nothing's going on. Oh, it's nothing. No, we're at a serious critical cycle and juncture in our existence. And some of us are living to experience, to see this. Okay? So the longer men forcefully fight and try to control this planet, the deeper it's going to go into chaos and turmoil. Okay, that's just a fact. You don't have to agree with it, and I don't want any men. Don't get all up in your feelings about it. Don't let your macho part of your ego get offended. Okay, if you look in every great civilization, for an example, in Egypt, the woman is always upheld higher than the man. She is a sacred divinity. Without that aspect harmonizing this whole thing, nothing can transpire. So this is where we get into the origins of the power of the feminine energy and the primordial mother. When you're saying primordial mother, as you know, the word primordial comes from the root of the word prime. What is prime? Let me break it down for you kindergarten style. It's like getting prime rib or prime steak. When you're saying prime, you're saying the best, the cream of the crop, the pure as the original. So when you're saying primordial chaos, that everything emerges from primordial chaos, right? Or that primordial chaotic energy, you're saying the very origin of things manifested from. And Tiamat's connection is there with Leviathan, with the dragon and the serpent energy, right? With the dark, chaotic, watery abyss. The primordial mother is connected to the womb of the woman, because we use terminology sometimes when we're working with Lilith. We're going into the cave of Lilith. We see this in draconian magic and other left-hand path occult practices. What does it mean to go into the cave of the divine demonic feminine? You're talking about going into the womb of the female, okay? All of us, whether we are male or female, we lived in a womb, a dark, watery abyss for 9 months before we emerged from the womb of our mother. That dark, chaotic, watery abyss is your home, and it's the place you felt the most comfortable until you were birthed into this world of chaos and this world of false illusions or false artificial light, not real divine intellect or illumination, knowledge, but this false light. And this is why I've said to you guys many times before, I don't care how old you get. It could be a cold night, or it could just be you're getting comfortable on the couch. We always revert back to that fetal position. Think about it. You might be laying on your recliner or your couch or in your bed watching TV. We all do it. We turn. We remember our connection in the womb of the primordial mother, and we're most comfortable balling up in a fetal position because you spent 9 months in the dark, chaotic, watery abyss like that. It's home to you, okay? What's this other thing they call the last few years? What's that thing called? Man, snuggling. That is a term they use for it. Hugging, snuggling. Let's cuddle or whatever. What do you do when you cuddle, even with your significant other? They turn on the side and you both get kind of in that fetal position and you get all cozy and cuddly, right? Why? Because you never forget that you emerged from that dark chaos. See, that dark chaos or that dark watery abyss, it's not a bad thing, because even in religion, as I said many times before, the monotheistic God existed in that dark void and watery abyss. All you got to do is read the first couple of verses in Genesis chapter 1. It says God's spirit roamed across the void and the deep. And this was before he said what? Let there be light. So he was in the void, the abyss, the darkness, if we're going to use that story. So darkness can't be a bad thing. Can't be an evil thing, even to religious folks, because their God emerged from this chaos, this primordial chaotic abyss or void. So it's not what people think it is. We all emerged from it. And the divine feminine energy that governs that abode, okay, is Tiamat, right? So let's go into it, having said that. So in the Left-Hand Path, Philosophy and Praxis, Volume 1, by Asenath Mason and other authors, I'm going to go through a section here, Enuma Elish and the origins of Tiamat, because as you know, she's connected to the Sumerian culture or spiritual path. It says the central work of the Babylonian mythology, which presents the origin of the universe and creation of humans, is the Enuma Elish, which also in the Enuma Elish and the Atrahasis, you also find the flood story that's recorded in the Old Testament of Noah, right? And when you read the flood story in the Sumerian, there's a character called Utnapishtim, who really is Noah. Because keep this in mind, when you're reading, especially the first 7 chapters of Genesis, you're getting the Babylonian story of creation. How did this infusion, how did this come about? The Bible can be a little confusing because it's a conglomeration of cultures, ancient texts that predated by thousands of years. So when you're reading the Bible, it kind of jumps all over the place from time period to time period, right? Little things in there such as it couldn't have been Pharaoh Ramses II that Moses was speaking to, because when you do the timeline of Moses, according to biblically, it doesn't line up with who they claim the Pharaoh is. Many discrepancies in there. But you have to also understand the history when those who are calling themselves those biblical Jews were released from captivity in Babylon, and then they migrated back into Jerusalem to rebuild Solomon's temple with Ezra, right? This is when they started to compile today's Bibles and Torahs that we're reading from. And the story of creation comes from when these Jews were in captivity in Babylon. They were heavily influenced by Babylonian teachings. Just like, for an example, the 6-pointed star, you find that in Babylonian temples. It has nothing to do with today's modern day Judaism. They adopted that star and came in contact with that star and many other teachings while they were in that captivity. Now, it wasn't the type of captivity you think, because when that bondage was over, many decided to stay in Babylon because they had established a very wealthy, productive, and happy life. It wasn't like forced type of slavery or forced or what most people think it was on all those levels. Because when you read the story, a lot of them stayed. A lot of them didn't go with Ezra when they migrated back into Jerusalem. So I'm saying all that to say, to give you that little history, is there's a heavy Babylonian Sumerian influence in the creation stories of the Bible. That's my whole point for saying what I was saying. All right. So you also find the flood story in the Atrahasis and the Enuma Elish under a character called Utnapishtim. It's the same story of Noah. Okay. That story has been told over and over. All right. All right. The epic that was titled after the first two written words, meaning when in the height, Malish. The oldest version of this text, written on 7 tablets, is dated as originating from the first half of the first millennium BCE. That's before the Christian era. And the period, according to modern historians, was the final stage of forming Babylonian and Assyrian views on the cosmological creation of the world. In the first millennium BCE, the final image of the physical world appeared. The earth was believed to have the shape of a flat disk with stars in the sky above it and with the cosmic waters and the underworld below. And I do want to put out there, and I'll remind it again, I forgot to say in the beginning with the announcements, I will have Sister Kiona coming on this Friday evening. She'll be returning back to Primordial Chaos. She's got a great presentation on renewing or recharging and connecting with your spiritual and sexual energy of Lilith. It's going to be in that spectrum. It's going to be good. I just forgot to put that out there in the beginning. I'll put it out there again at the end. She will be here with us upcoming Friday evening. Looking forward to that. All right. The earth was believed to have the shape of a flat disk with stars in the sky above it and with the cosmic waters and the underworld below. The underworld, as the place inhabited by the dead, was envisioned as a waterless desert full of dust and darkness, which suggests that it was located below the ocean of the cosmic waters. The Enuma Elish myth leaves us with a complete picture of the creation of the world. Now, if you've ever read it and you kind of read the concept of the 7 days of creation in the Bible, you're going to go, wait a minute, this can't be a damn coincidence. It's not. Okay? And it's plain to see as day. Yes, religious folks will still try to fight it. They will still try to justify it. They will still come with some form of cognitive dissonance and be in complete denial, even when you're smacking them upside the head with the facts. But we're past that stage. We're not interested in that. It's clear, all right? It's clear that this sounds almost identical, and it's not a coincidence. We know there's no such thing as a coincidence. Everything here happens for a reason. So we see this connection when we're reading this. And these are the things, by the way, just to also put out there, in the esoterical occult Bible study class, some of the stuff I'm talking about at the moment, this is the kind of stuff we get into in the esoterical occult Bible study class on Patreon, which if you, again, that ongoing series is included in tier 3 and above. And again, with all the ongoing series on the Patreon, you do get access to all the archived classes. You don't just get access from the day you join moving forward. You have access to all of the classes. All right. So not a coincidence that this creation story in the Enuma Elish almost sounds identical to the concept of it to the Bible. Coincidence? I don't think so. All right. All right. The Enuma Elish leaves us with the complete picture of creation of the world. This is where we left off. Establishment of the world, order in gradual stages from chaos to the most organized creation, the man. Other cosmogonic text presents only a few chosen aspects of the issue. The world begins with gods who embody particular cosmic elements. And if you look at the Sumerian deities, they all connect with one of the planets in our galaxy, in our solar system. There's a reason for that, because there's astrological or esoterical occult breakdown to this. All of them were birthed at a particular point when dealing with the astrological signs in the universe, and they're connected to certain planets. So this is why when you read your astrological chart, this is why you have certain planets, you have certain, your moons in Jupiter, or your suns in this, or this is why you're no different. When these beings were birthed into this realm like you were birthed under a certain astrological sign, which deals with a certain point of consciousness or awakening, because it ties you in to when you were birthed at that particular time in accordance to where the planets were aligned and the astrological you were birthed in. That's why it tells a lot about who and what you are. And again, I don't have a problem with people using astrology to gain further knowledge of themselves. I do have a problem when they use astrology in some religious spooky fashion, like they use it like a Bible and it governs every aspect of their life. That's pure foolishness. Use astrology to enhance your knowledge of self. I got no problem with that. Okay. So they're connected to that. Now, the deep thing with astrology, the true astrological trinity of self is combined of three elements when it comes to you. See, contrary to belief, we only focus on the astrological sign that we were birthed under, but it goes deeper than that. It's really a combination of yourself, your mother, and your father. You are a combination of all three of those signs. And if you look deep enough, you will see you have connections with all three of those signs when you look harder. So you are really 33rd and 1/3 birth, you're astrological. You contain a third of your mother's and a third of your father's. So that's why if you look into their signs and they were born under, you're going to see some similarities and connections there if you're honest with yourself and you look hard. All right, so let's continue. So the world begins with gods who embody particular cosmic elements and ever-existing forces of nature that come into being by the creative force of Marduk. The work is then an expression of the official doctrine of Babylonian priests. For this reason, it is worthwhile to think whether the creation of the world, even though depicted so elaborately, is the actual goal of the text itself. The emotional value is attached to the parts which describe the birth and the maturation of Marduk, and also his preparations for the fight with Tiamat, which we're going to talk about, which is one of the most important stories. Okay. This is followed by parts about the war itself, and finally the glorification of the triumphant God. Thus, we may assume that the epic is in fact a literary hymn to worship Marduk, the major deity of the Babylonian pantheon, the creator, of heaven and earth, the Lord of the world. And he gives birth to two sons, right? Enki and Enlil. And then Enki and Enlil are two warring brothers. Sound familiar? Why does that pattern after creation in the Bible follow with who? The two brothers Cain and Abel, which is nothing but the Enki and Enlil story. It's the two warring brothers at each other's throat, which we also see in Egypt under who? Osiris and Set, or Osir and Set, which that predates the biblical story. So somebody been bullshitting us for a while, okay? We're seeing a story that has been passed down for many years through different cultures. And then when that culture got their hands on the story, they just changed the names and the titles in accordance with the cultural language that they spoke. Okay? So Marduk, we see is him as a high chief ruling god. And then, like I say, he gives birth, he has two sons. Okay? Let's continue. Okay? All right. We encounter Tiamat for the first time when, similarly as the ancient Babylonians, we ask what was in the beginning when the gods did not yet exist. And I've asked religious folks this, right? And it's amazing the stupid answers you get, right? So when no gods existed, what existed? They just say they don't like you asking them. See, you don't know. You can't see God. The Lord works in mysterious ways. Just say you don't fucking know. Don't hand me that bullshit. I don't want to hear that. But let's keep going. Once, as the legend has it, there were only ancient primordial beings. In the beginning, there was nothing apart from Apsu, the primeval ocean of fresh waters. In the Hebrew, the word is Tichom, which is seen by some researchers as a derivative of the name Tiamat. Because remember, she represents those prime chaotic waters. At this stage, we also encounter Mumu, the concept that may be interpreted as a thought creative life force or as one of the names or titles of Tiamat. The goddess herself is presented in the myth in diverse aspects. Evidently, she symbolizes the primordial chaos and the dynamic force of creation. On the one hand, she is a caring and understanding mother of the creatures whom she gives birth to. She passionately opposes Apsu's idea to punish the young, careless gods. That's a natural motherly instinct, right? So there is that aspect of Tiamat, no doubt, just like there is to a lot of these female or feminine goddesses. But there's other aspects we're going to get into. All right. On the other hand, she is presented as a warrior goddess of blood and vengeance. And this is a little tricky here, and the mother of all evil and monsters. Okay. What this really represents is Tiamat, and we're going to go even further. Tiamat really deals with really getting into the deep, dark aspects of the shadow or the hidden self, where that rage, where those monsters and those anger and those demons reside, right? It's one of the most hardcore forms of shadow work you can do. I say hardcore forms because it's unfiltered. Tiamat is about as unfiltered as you're going to get. So just as we all are comfortable with tapping into these safe aspects of ourselves, these comfortable aspects of ourselves, Tiamat goes to the deepest recesses of the subconscious mind, right? This is why they refer to her as that, right? And this could not, now we're dealing with a whole nother spectrum on the other side of this, just being this motherly force. They make the same mistake with Aset or Isis in Egypt, right? They always just focus on this motherly thing. And it's there. I'm not saying it's not there. But the mistake is, I think it's overdrawn upon. And then there's so much more they don't talk about. All right. All right. Let's continue. Also, her shape is not actually defined in the epic. Generally, she is depicted as an enormous creature capable of taking 7 winds into her body, and out of which Marduk will finally create the whole physical world. So remember I said in the beginning of the video, there's a lot of symbolism here. There's a lot of occult, allegorical stuff here. You have to be able, as an occultist, a left-hand path practitioner, you have to be able to read the mythology, master it, and how do you take it and ritualize it and connect with the energy, right? That's where your job comes in, right? So now, again, and I could hear people thinking this, so is Tiamat real? Is Marduk real? Is this or that real? Is this, that, and the third real? It says real as you conceive and make it. It's as real as the shape, life, form, and image you give to it. As I've said many times before, when you have an experience and you claim to have a visual to see some type of demon, spirit, or god or goddess, you created that. How did you create that? By everything you absorbed and stored in your subconscious mind. I always tell people this. If you start working with a particular pantheon, let's just say the Babylonian deities, and let's just say now all of a sudden you're studying and reading a lot about Marduk and Tiamat and this and that, and you have now viewed a lot of different images and illustrations of that. And this is your first connection with this. You didn't know nothing about this prior to this, right? And then all of a sudden you start working with these deities and you start having visions and visuals and you start seeing this god and that goddess. So the question I always pose to people, did those gods or goddesses exist before you became aware of them? What do you mean? All right. Again, before you started looking at images and studying and reading about whatever particular pantheon and gods or goddesses are a part of it, and then started seeing imagery, illustrations, and artwork, Did they exist before you became aware of it? And I say that to say this. Why am I saying that? Okay. It didn't exist in the sense that you accepted it and embraced it through awareness, but you think it's a coincidence that before you knew anything, say, about Tiamat, never laid eyes on anything about Tiamat, that you never had an experience directly with Tiamat. Now, all of a sudden, after you start reading about Tiamat and seeing images of Tiamat and this and that, all of a sudden you start to have experiences with Tiamat. That's because now the mind is registered. You stored that awareness, that knowledge, that information in your subconscious mind. You are also giving life and form to the god or the goddess that you're connecting with. So of course you're going to have a visual and external experience and see it how you created it and manifested it through your mind. So that's how it's real, okay? And removing all the spookism. So when you take the mythology, it becomes as real as you perceive, conceive it, and manifest it and create it in your subconscious mind, in your subjective realm. Is it subjective in nature? Of course it is. All spiritual ritual is subjective in nature. That's why I laugh at people go, well, that's subjective. Of course, motherfucker, ritual work is subjective. That's to all the people that need some source. And so what you're saying is, where can I find that? What book? What author? Listen, smack nuts. Not everything explained that's spiritual by nature or that you experience on the spiritual realm has a book, a source, or a reference point. Okay? So it's as real as you make it, because that's the question that always comes up. Is Tiamat real? Is Lilith real? Is this, that real? Yes, they are real. But they're real to the point as you make them. Because these are, in essence, we're talking about them in their pure energy form, etheric form, Etherean form, whatever term you want to use. These are beings of energy, first and foremost, before they take on an anthropomorphic or a human or manifest over the years in different cultures, over different time periods, and take form. Okay? But when we speed that up to us today in 2023 and we ask that same question, were these beings as real to those back then as they are to us now? Yes. It's as real as you make it and how strong you connect. That's the answer to that question. You can't force that understanding. You can't force to have that experience. You got to raise yourself up to the realization and understanding of that. Okay? So let's keep that in mind. All right, let's continue. All right. All right. From other sources, however, we find that the goddess was most often portrayed as a great dragon or serpent representing the salty waters of the ocean. Here again, symbolism. We have the dragon, the serpent energy, Kundalini, right? Kundalini energy is integral to your spiritual awakening. We have salt and salt water. Salt represents the life. We need a certain level of salt, that life force of salt. It's like, no, it's not a coincidence if you are perspiring or sweating so much. You see, when it's that bad and it dries up, you touch your forehead, you feel that crystallization or the salt or the life leaving from your body. So this is why she's connected to the salt water, because she represents life, because salt water has life. That's why if you've ever, it's a great thing to do once in a while, to really recharge and invigorate yourself. If you are privileged or you are blessed with living close to a saltwater body beach or body of water, it's always good occasionally to adjust the alkaline levels in your body, to realign yourself, to submerge yourself in that salt, right? Or, as I like to say, bathing yourself in the waters of Tiamat, because she represents that primordial force of creation that you emerged, right? So there we see her connected also with the ocean or the salty waters of the ocean. Before we discuss the detailed descriptions of the particular aspects and qualities of Tiamat, we can for a moment reflect on what might have been the basis of such a presentation in the myth. I got two things I want to cover here, and then I'll go into some questions. I will, to my best ability, try to keep this. I don't want to be on here super long. I said 2 to 2.5 hours, but you know my ass. Sometimes I get to talking, I can't stop, but we'll see. All right. We can for a moment reflect on what might have been the basis of such a presentation in the myth. First of all, the attention should be turned to the historical process and the cultural context. The myth may originate from the old Babylonian period in the circle of the priests of Marduk, and its original function was to legitimize the importance of the patriarchal god of Babylon. There again, religion promoting its man worship. The kingdom of a minor significance at the time. This occurred due to the political changes in Mesopotamia. Really, when I read this story of Marduk and Tiamat, it goes back to us, or men on the planet, not us who are conscious and aware of this, always trying to resist allowing the woman to rule. And this is what happened here with Marduk. And this is what happened here with Tiamat, right? Again, and they're giving you a little historical count. It's important for me, and the reason why I grabbed this excerpt, if you're going to work with a historical and a cultural aspect of this path, you should have knowledge of that culture and that history to a certain degree, okay? Because if you don't, I think you're doing yourself a disservice, okay? And this is why this is a really good section covering some of this, all right? This occurred due to the political changes in Mesopotamia that were happening at this period of time. On the other hand, the myth might refer to the conflict between the matriarchal and patriarchal rules. And that's why I said what I said. To me, that's what I grasp from it. It's, again, refusing to allow the rightful rulership that needs to rule efficiently on this planet, which is the divine female or the feminine energy, right? Women are way more in tune with the forces of this planet than we are. Shit, her biological clock her menstrual period is in tune with nature and creation. Okay, your dick isn't. There's nothing on a man's body that a woman doesn't have, including a penis, which is nothing but a clitoris. If you look at it, you as a man have two breasts that serve absolutely no fucking purpose in life. You ain't milking nothing and you ain't giving anything milk. A woman in her true form, before a lot of the genetic mutations and a lot of being disconnected from her divine, she always gave birth to twins. That's why she had two breasts, because she was always breastfeeding two children at the same time. What separates the two, though, and I've told you guys this a few times over the years, in 1993, Time Magazine did an article on this. I don't know the month, but you can just Google it. It comes right up. Just Google Time Magazine 1993 mitochondrial DNA. And they talk about the mitochondrial Eve, and they give their genetic breakdown, and you will find out, yes, men have traces of mitochondrial DNA connected to them, but women have way more levels of mitochondrial DNA. It's the oldest DNA through carbon and fossil dating that can be traced back. It even goes back to the character they refer to in Africa called Lucy, right? They give her a name so to take you away from Africa, and that goes back over 1 billion years. Which negates the whole creation story, by the way, in the Bible. Because you got to be a fucking complete idiot to think that this planet is just over 6,000 years old. That's just pure foolishness. Okay? So this mitochondrial DNA is a telltale sign. It tells a lot, right? And it confirms too, believe it or not, through carbon and fossil dating, contrary to belief and contrary to the indoctrinated system of patriarchal religious and political rule, that women walked the planet first before men did. Okay? Because their Bible even tells on themselves in Genesis chapter 1, verses 26 to 28, you see a creation of male and female. Before chapter 2, before the creation of the actual female Eve. Who the fuck are they talking about there is what I want to know. It says God created male and female, created he them, and told them to be fruitful and multiply and replenish and refill the earth, which is confirmation that something was already here if they were refilling it. This glass is about to be empty. What do you say to a waiter when your glass is empty? Mole, refill this for me, please. What does that mean? There was something in this. The Genesis story is not the beginning of creation, people. It's the beginning of one of many replenishing periods. It's the beginning. This planet has been destroyed multiple times by meteorites and cataclysmic events. Okay? You're reading an emergence from one of the many replenishing periods. Okay? The word Bereshith or Genesis means reconstruction. If you're reconstructing something, you're not building something new, you're making improvements to it. You're reconstructing it. We use it for our homes, renovations. Look at it, you're making renovations to something. Okay? So we need to be aware of all this. So the mitochondrial DNA links back to the primordial mothers who walked the earth before the male did. I know that's hard for some people to stomach, religious folks and egotistical macho men who their ego gets, come on, man, stop. We're grown adults. If you work with Tiamat, you must embrace this type of understanding. Because Tiamat will fuck you up if you disrespect a female, just like Lilith will. If you're very disrespectful and do not uphold that respect for the divine feminine, man, your life is going to be, especially working on this path. Don't work with a demon goddess like Tiamat or Lilith or Naama. You get your ass chewed up and spit out. Trust me when I tell you. I can show you better than I can tell you, as they say, right? All right. So I think it's more of the battle. It's a male-female thing. That's where we left off. I think it's more that than anything, this story, okay? So between the matriarchal and patriarchal rules of the social and religious structures, just as it was in Egypt, where the cult of the lunar female goddess, Tort or Taweret, her Greek counterpart is Typhoon, was degraded by the dominant solar cult and then demonized and associated with all that was dark and evil. According to another interpretation, this symbolic transformation of chaos, the unstructured principle, into the cosmos, the organized structure. Now, let's stop there for a minute. We talk about chaos that emerges from Leviathan, because when things are not organized, right, they are chaotic, which you could perceive that a multitude of ways. It could be a bad thing if you don't know how to embrace that chaos and you don't know how to make personal order out of your chaos. Yes, then it could be destructive. It could devour you. It could cause a lot of chaos and disruptions in your life. But let's go back now to Leviathan real quick, okay? Good old Levi, as I like to say, right? Levi jeans. Let me stop. Leviathan, and I'm going to go back to Michael Aquino's definition of it in the Diabolicon. And being a former member, resigned member, by the way, of the Temple of Set, I was privileged to do a lot of work with Leviathan. I was able to connect with some people who are over the order of Leviathan. I was able to actually do some work. Michael Kelly, as you know, who is also an ex-member of the Temple of Set and who was over the order of Leviathan. He was the high priest when he was in the temple. The breakdown of Leviathan under the understanding of the principle of continuity and existence. That's Leviathan. All primordial chaos emerges from that principle of continuity and consistency. Okay? When we say the principle of continuity and existence, right? Continuity is connected to being consistent, right? It's also, you can link it to harmony. So we're saying we have a force that was whole, that was complete, that was harmonized, and that was its continuity just kept flowing. But we also know from that emerged a lot of this chaotic energy that we're talking about. So in essence, we go from continuity, harmony, to chaos, back to continuity, if you're following what I'm getting at. You are a fragment that manifested from that principle, and by nature, you're a chaotic being, right? Because when you separate from that, it's like understanding, when you go into the understanding of metaphysics or quantum physics, when they talk about the all is contained within all. You can't take from the all, add to the all. Where would you get it? Where would you put it, right? So when you take a fragment of the all, it's still part of the all. You can pull it from the all, but it lessens what the all is, and it creates a chaotic reaction or chain reaction. That's our manifestation, right? I'm giving you the breakdown, if you esoterically in a cult, of Tiamat and this whole battle that we're talking about right now. See, now I could take that and make a whole ritual out of that. And I can tap into the power of my subjective realm and take it to a point and an intent of whatever I focus on. That's how powerful the mind is. Okay? So let's continue. Now, notice we see a term here in Egypt referring to the lunar female goddess as Taut or Taweret. Now, it's not a coincidence. You had a character in ancient Egypt, not a character, you had a pharaoh. Pharaoh Thutmose I of ancient Egypt. Thutmose, Moses, Moshe. Look at the story of Thutmose of Egypt and Moses in the Bible. It's the story of Thutmose. Thutmose has to raise an army to chase invaders out of Egypt that tried to take over Egypt. And he has to chase these invaders out. And it refers to these invaders as the Hekakasuta, the Hyksos. They come into Egypt and they bring with them, as they set up their temples, a crocodile deity called Taweret. And Taweret would cause a lot of, when you read the story, would cause a lot of disturbances, weeping and wailing in the temples at night. And it used to piss off Thutmose and them, the sound of it. So he raises the people up, just like in the story of the Exodus and leading the people out of Egypt. They reverse it. It talks about a group of people in Egyptian history called the Hekakasut, or the Hyksos, who resided in Egypt for a little over 400 years. Sound familiar, Israelites? Why is it on record nowhere in Egypt is there anybody referred to as Israelites that were in bond? Now, the Egyptians were meticulous in keeping records. If any people dwelled in the land for 400 years, there would be some historical data. There would be some evidence that they were there. There's no record of anyone by evidence being there under the name Israelites. Okay? But you do see this story with Thutmose I and the Hyksos. And it's eerily similar to the Exodus story in the Bible. Coincidence? I think not. Taweret, right? Torah. What's the first 5 books of the Bible called? The Torah, right? That Bible is nothing but the worship of the Canaanite deity, Baal or El. Okay? It's not a coincidence. Taweret, Torah. You think that's a coincidence? You think the story of Thutmose and the Hyksos, how it's so eerily similar to the story of the Israelites and the Exodus in the Bible? I don't think so, people. But we'll talk about that another time. Just something to throw out there. All right. Where else we at? And notice that Tawaret's counterpart is Typhoon. Soot, Typhoon. Was degraded by the dominant solar cult and demonized and associated with all that was dark and evil. According to another interpretation, this symbolic transformation of chaos the unstructured principle, into cosmos, the organized structure, might represent the rise of culture and its opposition against nature. And we're experiencing that right the fuck now. Okay? Because this is what's going on in the world right now. We are in opposition against nature. The damn sun is reminding you of that every day. Oh, you motherfuckers want to keep destroying the planet, gas and greenhouse effect and pollution and you guys just sickness and illness and disease, and you guys want to create weapons that emit all types of toxins. Okay. Mother Nature said, feel my motherfucking wrath, bitch. It's getting hot. I hear Nelly, it's getting hot in this bitch. Let me stop. But Mother Nature is retaliating back. Tiamat, the ocean is pissed. Tiamat is mad right now. The waters are getting warm. Apsu, the sun, right? The sun is getting hot. It's warming the waters and it's raging the anger of Tiamat. I feel it and sense it every day. And I respect it. And guess what? I don't worry about cataclysmic event or alien invasions like I told you guys in a recent video. I'm in control of my immediate surrounding environments. I embrace my existence and all things that are contained in that existence. All I can do is respect it, connect with it, master it, and embrace it as part of me. That's it. I have the ultimate respect. I sometimes, when I go down to the beach, what awes me is just sitting there. What prevents the water? Think about this for a minute. What prevents the water? You ever just sit there? Because I just think crazy shit. Or I just think. Some of it may not be crazy. I just think, what stops the water from fully coming ashore? I understand science with the poles. But what keeps it there? What's to say? Yeah, I understand if there's a tsunami or the pole shift. I'm not talking about something scientific happens, but it amazes me, and I love sitting at the beach more towards what they call the evening hours, as the sun is illusionary setting, not really setting, and just the vibe and the energy from the water and the night sky, and especially if there's a moon. There's so much elements in that. I mean, you tap in to the power of the moon and the energy of the female. There's a connection with Lilith there too, right? And then the energy of Tiamat. And when I'm down at the waters at nighttime, I feel the energy of her dragon, her serpent energy. I feel her race. Sometimes I could hear her scream in the waters. If you listen closely, listen real closely to the waves. And sometimes if you take a seashell, you can hear Tiamat. I know that might sound a little quirky to some, but everything it's talking about here, we're experiencing right now. So I'm trying to take the mythology and the cosmology of these stories and how you can take that and apply it in real time. Because just to read the mythology, it's just a nice story. Because what these stories keep telling us over and over again is what keeps taking place in our subconscious mind. It's talking about this inner war and battle we fight from day one. It's really you wrestling it's the battle between your lower self, quote unquote, and your higher self. Okay. And there's layers to this shit, people. It goes deep. When you take it there, you can go layers upon layers of this. Okay, but let's continue. Man has always been striving to tame and control what he could not understand, and that's the woman. And what threatened him, paradoxically, still bound to it, like to a mother. Here's the crazy thing we do as men, and I'm just speaking in general term. I don't do this no more. I'm not that type of man anymore. Even these old macho, chauvinistic men. But what's the old thing to say? It's funny how men can be chauvinistic to the woman, their significant other, their spouses, female friends, could be their daughters, their wife, family members. But these same men can be the biggest mama boys you ever met in your fucking life, right? Ain't that some hypocritical shit? They could disrespect all the women like, oh, don't you talk about my mama. You want to get under a man's nerve and really strike a nerve and get him angry, start talking about his mama. And this would be the same man that could be calling a woman a bitch and disrespecting the female and doing this, that, and the third. But don't talk about his mama. He's going to get mad if you talk about his mama. Oh, so when it's your female mother, you'll disrespect all who were birthed from the primordial mother, except nobody can, your mother? Nah. Just goes to show you the mindset. All right. Wow. All right. Let me try to get through this because I really want to. Oh, I got a good one coming up for that one. All right. So that's a little history, right? Let's go through. I want to get into just two more sections here. The goddess of the goddess of chaos and all creation, and then darkness, blood, and vengeance, right? Which I'm not going to go through the Necronomicon. You all can read that part yourself, and I'm sure you all have a copy of the Necronomicon. First and foremost, Tiamat is the primordial and chaotic structure of all life. It is from her womb that the first couple of gods, Lahmu and Lahamu, emerge, and they in turn give birth to other gods. These are your planets, by the way: Mercury, Mars, Venus, right? Moreover, in the 8th verse of the Anuma Elish, we read that this happened where none of the gods bore a name and no destinies were ordained, which suggests that Tiamat is not merely a shapeless source of all life, but also possesses the power to shape and create destinies. This is reflected in the further part of the myth when she creates her demonic armies and gives Kingu the tablets of destiny. Okay? In this aspect, she resembles the Greek Gaia, who, according to Hesiod, was not created by any god, but came into being herself, emerging from chaos. This also, when you go into Egypt, Ptah, it says Ptah created himself. How is somebody can be self-created? Well, there's your answer. Emerged, right? It says right here, again, came into being herself, emerging from chaos. Now, the only way you can't understand that in a person, place, three-dimensional existence, because you're trying to understand something that's outside of three-dimensional person, place, or thing. So don't sit there and try to put together, well, what that means. So you're going to, short bus. It ain't going to work, people. You come to the realization of some of these higher understandings through your ritual work. Okay? Let me continue. I'm going to try to get through this real quick, and then I'm going to go to your questions. All right. We may assume that in this conception, chaos contains within itself also the inner cosmic essence that aims at some form of order. Also, similarly to Gaia, she is the caring mother for her children and strongly opposes the idea of punishment for unworthy deeds. Another quality of Mother Hubur, who bore all beings, is her typically watery character. Without water, there is no life. And this gave water a special role in all possible mythologies. Why do you think you offer water as an offering in a lot of spiritual practices? Why do you think you put water on your ancestral altar? Why do you think you offer certain spirits water? Because it is the very essence of life and existence itself. Okay? On the other hand, just like in the Egyptian myths in which Nun is the primeval ocean and symbol of the watery chaos, the chaotic waters of Nun. And the mysteries of that in ancient Egypt, it also represents the womb of the female, the chaotic waters of Nun. So when the male ejaculates into the female, all those sperms are racing to get to the womb so life can be born. It's the chaos. That's where the chaos is. So it's reenacting this process of the natural life form of creation that begins in the chaotically watery abyssal womb of the female. Because that's life. We're all racing to manifest out of that chaos, per se. Okay? All right. So we left off with Nun. Okay? So Nun, the primordial ocean and the symbol of watery chaos. Tiamat represents the watery womb in which all gods and all life come into being. On the other hand, Tiamat is the great monster, the dragon, the one who rules the source of this life-giving elixir. However, Tiamat is not only the source of all creative energy, right, and the mother of gods, but also of the whole world in general. Transition from shapeless, watery element to a stable land appears in myths as an important act essential to the transformation in chaos into cosmos. The next step in this process is the separation of heaven from earth. Now, if you're paying attention, this is your biblical creation story. Remember, we're reading the Enuma Elish, right? This is the story of creation in the Enuma Elish, aspects of it. It's almost eerily similar to the 7 days of creation in the Bible, not a coincidence. So I hope you're paying attention to this, okay? All right. So the separation of the heavens and the earth, okay? Which perhaps is the same as the first act of creation. If we take into consideration the initial identification of the heaven with the oceans of the world, in the Enuma Elish we read, then the Lord rested, gazing upon her dead body. He divided the flesh and devised a cunning plan. This sounds so eerily to Genesis. He split her up like a flat fish into two halves. Sounds like the creation of Eve, don't it? One half of her he established as a covering for heaven. He fixed a bolt. He stationed a watchman and bade them not to let her waters come forth. That's why I said, what prevents the waters from coming ashore? And thus the heaven and the earth were created. Such an image of the primeval water from which earth emerges or is created is universal and can be found in almost all world mythologies. More rarely do we encounter as typical examples when we point at the Scandinavian or Persian mythology. A motif of the rise of the world from polarization of two elements, water or earth or fire. The cosmogonic function of fire is generally ambiguous as it exists on the border between culture and nature, but this is not the theme of the essay. And then the last thing on this, and then I'm going to finish with blood and vengeance, then I'm done. As the mother of all, Tiamat can also be viewed from another perspective. If we follow Eric Fromm's suggestion, perhaps we can look at the Enuma Elish myth through the mirror of modern psychology, like in the concept of a conflict between the social structure and religious cults. Also, this time, the significance of male and female principle might be key to understanding the symbolicism of this epic. And I believe it is that. The cult of the great goddess has always been connected with the symbolism of nature and fertility. Okay. This belief was associated with the mystical qualities of a woman. Maternity and the ability to give new life belong to the sphere of sacrum. In the history of religion, the period of the cult of Mother Goddess is called the lunar phase. Female energy embodied the most primal forces of nature, the power of creation and fertility. Also, Marduk, in order to defeat Tiamat, proved that he possessed the power of creation. Hence, the scene of the ordeal in myth, the symbolism of which is thoroughly analyzed by Fromm, in which Marduk at the feast in the palace has to cause a robe to disappear and then appear again. He must do this with the power of his word. In later, more modern cosmological myths, like the Bible, we encounter male solar gods who create the world exactly in this way, by means of their word. Curiously, even the process of giving birth will be changed. Instead of being born from a woman, it will be that the man will give birth to her, like in the case of Adam and Eve or Zeus and Athena. Okay? And then the last thing. I just want to go through darkness, blood, and vengeance. This is the very dark, wrathful side of Tiamat. In the further part of the epic, we see Tiamat from a completely different perspective. This time, she is one who takes life away. Because now, after this encounter with Marduk, just like a woman, scorn is the worst thing you want to feel the wrath of. She's now at a point where she's done. She ain't taking no more. She said, fuck it. Now we're seeing the dark, vengeful, bloodthirsty side of Tiamat, who now, to fulfill and to quest, the quest that she is on, and to quench her thirst for vengeance and revenge, she has now unleashed a very terrifying dark side of her nature. It's the I don't give a fuck anymore side of her nature. And when the woman leashes that, game over. Game over. And I'm speaking to you men. You men know when it goes left like that, it's a wrap. So now it's about to go left. Because Tiamat's about to go batshit crazy. They awaken the dragon within. Let's go. Let's read. So we see a different perspective. This time she is one who takes away life, avenges Apsu, and becomes the mother of all evil and all monsters. She creates and takes a new lover, gives him the mastery of destiny, Kingu, the tablets of destiny, and fills him with her own blood from which man will be created later. She is now liberated, strong, and independent. Let us now address what influenced this radical change. Notice the blood, right? She fills the man with the blood. A man must be charged up spiritually by a woman. Now, I want to be careful. There was ancient cults that, I want to be careful how I say this because I don't want to get no emails of people doing this shit. In certain cults, a man would drink the menstrual blood of a woman to purify himself. But it had to be of a woman who was pure, spiritually in tune, aligned, connected to the spirit world. And so a man was, and again, please don't send me emails. Should I drink menstrual blood, or I did this, that? I got to say it because people are fucking crazy. Because you do what you want to do on your own. Okay. Don't bring Baniti into it. And that elixir that it talked about earlier, and as it says here, she filled him up with the blood. That is the elixir, right? The female blood. And that's why they say in ritual and occult work, the menstrual blood of the female is the most powerful blood. But it can't be from a sick female mentally, physically, or emotionally. Then that's tainted blood. Let me stress that. We're talking about a female who is aligned and connected to her spiritual power. Then it becomes a pure elixir of life. And to the man, when it says she filled Kingu up, he was able, and she gave him the tablet of destinies. He was able to tap into her elixir by her will. He became a supreme being. Okay. So again, we see it's the woman responsible for all this. All right, let's continue. As we have already mentioned, attention should be given to anxiety occurring within the new conceptions of a religious cult, social structures, or psychology. However, as Mircea Eliade points out, the whole character of the Enuma Elish is quite gloomy and dark. Tiamat is not only the chaotic whole that preceded all creation, but eventually she appears as the creator of all monsters. Her creativity is now completely negative. This is confirmed by the verse, evil she wrought against the gods, her children, to avenge Apsu. Tiamat planned evil. We might thus assume that she was the creator of evil, and had it not existed before, the primordiality is then presented as a source of all negative animations. On the other hand, we may trace the process of evolution from chaos to cosmos. Okay? As it suggests by Elijah Milatinsky, from the point of view, the transformation of chaos into cosmos, i.e. darkness into light, okay, or disorder into order, usually occurs in the form of a fight between an archaic hero with chthonic demons and monsters. A popular motif is the cosmic fight with the serpent or the dragon. the goal of which is the defeat of primordial chaos. The serpent dragon in many mythologies is connected with waters and often presented as a threat to humans, bringer of flood or drought, or generally the one who introduces the element of chaos and disrupts the balance of the world. Anyway, mythological conflicts and duels almost all have some sort of cosmological nature and symbolize the defeat of chaos by the forces of the cosmos. It is not, however, characteristic only of the Babylonian mythology. In the Scandinavian lore, the gods Thor, Odin, and others fight chthonic monsters. Jormungadir, the wolf, Fenrir, the goddess of death, hell. In the Egyptian mythology, Atum-Re every day faces the underworld serpent Apep. In Greece, we encounter the struggle between Zeus and Typhoon, the father of such chthonic monsters as Hydra or Lerni, Chimeria, Cerberus, or the two-headed dog, Orpho. Even in the Bible, we can find notes about the conflict between God and the dragon or a fish, also representing the eternal element of chaos. Rahab, Tihon, Leviathan. Many similar couples can be mentioned, like Apollo and Python, Tritona, Azi, Dahaka, Krasas, Sruar. And then the last section. Another important motif in the Enuma Elish is the concept of Tiamat's blood. Even though neglected by many researchers, this motif is essential to the full understanding of the nature of the goddess. Its significance is suggested in two quotations. Let the wind carry her blood into secret places. And he cut through the channels of her blood and made the north wind bear it away into secret places. From these words, we may assume that all Tiamat's essence and the creative element of chaos is contained within her blood, just like any female. Okay? The god of light must therefore hide it to finish the process of transformation from chaos to cosmos. Moreover, also humans are created from Tiamat's blood, as she is the mother and lover of Kingu, whose blood is the substance from which Marduk creates humanity. As Iliad notices, a man is therefore created from demonic matter. Kingu, even though being one of the first gods, was also the archdemon and commander of the army of all monsters created by Tiamat. Besides the very role of man in the Sumerian and Babylonian mythology, and Babylonian mythology is pitiful, mankind is created and exists only to serve the gods, right? And when you get into a character called Gestu, right? Because when you read the story, they were literally the gods utilized the humans they created basically as workers and slaves, okay? The name Lulu attributed to man may be translated as savage or weak one. According to Mil Tatinsky, the prototypical creation of the world from slain creature occurs through sacrifice. Probably in more archaic mythologies, he would find more tales about creation of the animals and plants, heavenly bodies, and other natural objects from the flesh of a slain ancestor. The motif of blood is sacrifice is evident in Aztec mythology. The gods need human blood to stay alive. This is also reflected in the Babylonian epic. The gods need Kingu's blood to purify themselves after the war is finished and to create mankind. Even the goodwill of Marduk, who holds power over life and is called Lord of Sacred Hymns, resurrecting the dead, is not enough. To create life, one needs blood, the seat of the creative element of chaos and of all life. And in conclusion, the nature of the goddess Tiamat is probably one of the most complicated cases in all mythologies. We can find analogous examples in ancient archetypal force of other goddesses like Gaia, as well as chthonic forces like Erishkigal. On the other hand, she personifies the creative energy in nature. On the other, its final doom and darkness. Looking at this issue from another perspective, we see a completely different picture. We see Tiamat as an archetypal symbol of the dragon, the force that transcends all dualities and leads man towards the final forbidden unity. But even then, we may take a step further. Tiamat is also the force of belonging to this world. If we, however, follow the Necronomicon theories, we might assume that her essence exists beyond the angles and dimensions known to any man. Between the tree of life and the tree of night, her blood is the key which opens all gates and the eternal promise that was given to mankind. This cannot be surprising, though, if we remember that the evolution on the true path has neither a beginning or end, because we deal with cyclical time, not linear time. All right. So that's what I wanted to cover in that. So what I'm going to do now is, as long and as much as I can, let me go to some of your questions and some of your comments. I'm going to start at the top, just to be fair to those that were here. And real quick, while I got most people here, just want to remind you guys, classes and a ritual for the rest of this month. If you want to get in on the classes, the best way to get in on the classes that I do 3 private classes every month on Patreon for Patreon members only. And the official Primordial Chaos page is at patreon.com/Baniti, Baniti. Tier 3 is the tier you want to join. That will give you access to all the monthly classes, all the archive classes, and pretty much most of the content, all the content on the page. All right. Also, as you see, I've been putting up a lot of new videos on the YouTube page. I've also been converting them to audio files and putting them on the Primordial Chaos podcast. So check that out. I did it because, for those that want to listen to it while they may be walking, exercising, just doing stuff around the house, driving, you now have access to listen to a lot of the new content on the Primordial Chaos podcast page. It's on Spotify, Anchor.fm, Radio Public, pretty much anywhere where you can find podcasts. All right. All right. So again, if I didn't greet you when you first came in, infernal blessings to all. Some of the people know what's going on. Bree, what's going on? Good to see you here. Xander, Kenneth, Anthony, and everybody else. All right. I'm going to more focus on questions for the sake of time because I have some stuff I want to do. I'm not going to really read too many comments unless it's pertaining to the dialogue. All right. All right. So let's see what we got. All right. So the first question I see was from Kenneth. Is there a difference objectively when dealing with spirits and other systems? For example, if you work with Hecate in the Draconian system versus a Wiccan system, big difference, huge difference. Why? How we work with Hecate in the Draconian system, you're working more. You got to understand, Wicca is dealing with earth magic and earth spirits. And I'm not saying earth magic and some form of Wiccan or Wicca practices doesn't have its place. But when you're working with Hecate as the goddess of witchcraft and sorcery and as the queen of hell, that's not the same thing as working with Hecate in New Age philosophy. You're working with more of this motherly nature type of goddess figure who does deal with magic, but not on the level as it would with, say, the Draconian path, the occult, or the left-hand path. So working with Hecate or Hecate, depending on how you pronounce it, big difference, huge difference. MX, I'm just going to call you MXX. Those short videos are good. I appreciate that. Yeah, I used to do that a few years ago. I started doing it, then I stopped, but I'm going to stay consistent at it now. You guys are going to get a lot of content on the YouTube, a lot of these 20, 30-minute videos. I'm going to be posting as many as I can throughout the week. I'll be putting up a couple more tomorrow. And again, they're just going to be focusing on a specific topic for about 20 or 30 minutes. I'll get into as much as I can. Obviously, can't get into a lot of those topics and everything in a short period, but I just think they're good things. And there'll be a lot of that. And again, as I said, all of it will also be on the podcast, the audio versions of it. All right. Davion Kerr says, are the Draconian gods and goddesses linked to the reptilian aliens or reptilian bands? Now, there are in certain circles where there is, some people do believe that does exist. They accept that ideology. Now, this is a tricky subject. We have to be careful. And I recently posted a video. When we talk about extraterrestrials, grays, reptilians, and aliens, when you study the history of the data that's been collected on the existence of these races, right? We know there's benevolent and malevolent grays and reptilians. So sometimes people hear the word reptilian aliens, for an example, and their mind goes to wandering to all of these sci-fi horrific things. When we understand really who these draconian gods are, yes, some of them are like there's draconian or reptilian forms or manifestation when Lilith comes in her draconian form. Some of them will have those reptilian attributes and connection to them. So yes, I would say there is a connection there. It is accepted in certain circles. I mean, when you do the research and you study, there appears to be a link to a certain degree. So I would definitely say to that question, yes. All right, what else we got? Okay, Davion Kerr says, in the Draconian current, are Tiamat and Leviathan the only dragons in that system? No. Lucifer, there's a form of Lucifer is one of the most, when you work with the Draconian spiritual system, I'll use him as an example. When you're saying the Vovine chant in the Draconian current, Vovine, Vovine, Vovine. There's ways of doing it, right? You're invoking the dragon energy of Lucifer. He has a dragon manifestation. So no, it's definitely not limited just to those two particular individuals. Lilith herself too. There's rituals you do with Lilith called looking through the reptilian eye, right? So definitely no, it's not limited to those two particular Tiamat and Leviathan. No. All right. Tiamat 444 says Tiamat is the cosmic womb, most definitely. The primordial dragon mama. She is the dark feminine creatrix. 100%. And I know that comment came earlier, but yeah, that's what we were going through. See, a true person, quote unquote, who is awake or conscious or on the path to self-mastery, as I like to say, in my opinion, to be a real, successful, powerful occult practitioner, black magician, whatever you want to call it, you must understand kind of what you described there, the power of this feminine energy, right? It's even when you go through the clip path. I've said this before. I was talking about it recently on one of the videos. Okay. When you're going into the clip, it's the female that facilitates carrying the initiate or the adept through the Citra Aqua, through the void, into the abyss. When you look on the cliff, you look at the bottom by that 10th, going into the 11th, you see who? Lilith and Naama. Who guide Lilith is the one spearheading it, guiding the initiate in the void and the abyss. So you can't truly remanifest and come into your divine divinity as a god or a goddess until you understand how this divine demonic feminine energy works. Tiamat is the answer to that. Tiamat will give you the formula for that. So it's very important, men and women, and more so for men, that you understand and respect and love this divine demonic feminine energy, because you wouldn't be shit without it. Okay? Oh, never forget that. Always remember that. All right. What else we got? I appreciate it. Tiamat says, give gratitude for these energies and this conversation. Most definitely. Dante Ashar. I don't know if you meant vampiric slumber. I don't know if that's a misspell. I'm not sure what that term is, vampiric. I think it might be a misspell. So I'll see if you put something further down. Tiamat 444 says, in darkness is where true light resides. Yes, that's one of the mystical understandings on this path. And that's what Lucifer represents too. Because Lucifer embodies light and darkness. He represents the light bearer, represents gaining that light in the darkness, which is knowledge or intellect, right? One has to go into the darkness to get true light. You can't get true light, real intellect. Because in that darkness, in the deep aspects of the void, the abyss, your subconscious mind is where the truth is buried. It's your job to go in there and uncover it. And a lot of it, you suppressed yourself. You buried it. You hid it there through knowingly and unknowingly. Some of it was done through a serious programming and indoctrination. So no doubt, one must go into the darkness to do the work of the light. One must go into darkness to gain light. And as it says in the Bible, though they'll tell you it's Jesus, it means something more deep at us. The light shineth in the darkness, and the darkness comprehended it not. Okay? Amen, brother. Amen. Hallelujah. No, we stop. I caught the ghost. Shamalama shakalakala, shamalama ding dong. That shit kills me when them motherfuckers. You ever see them evangelists catch the I always used to get in arguments with them years ago because it says in 2 Corinthians, I believe it's 2 Corinthians 12. I could be wrong. I know it's in Corinthians, though. It says if somebody's catching a spirit and speaking in tongues, whether you guys realize this or not, there's supposed to be a process to that. It doesn't just mean somebody catches the Holy Ghost in tongues and shamalama-ding-long, blah, 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 foaming at the mouth and hurting and all. No, that's an unholy spirit according to the Bible, I'm saying according to the Bible. But it literally says in their Bible, when somebody's catching a spirit and speaking in tongues, one should be recording what's being said and somebody should be translating. So for anybody that grew up in a Pentecostal or one of those Holy Roller churches, all them years that somebody was just yelling out gibberish and jumping around and all of that's what it was gibberish. And they was in touch with some spirits, but it wasn't the spirits that they thought it was. But it amazes me how nobody questions people who say they speak in tongues and catch spirits. What are you saying? Can it be translated? If it can't, it's gibberish. According to your Bible, not according to me, according to your fucking Bible. Okay? But anyway, what else we got? William Thomas, what's going on, brother? I don't understand this statement. I think it's Sean, C-H-A-U-N. Am I saying that right? Sean. Wait. C-H-A-U-N, Sean. So similarities mean two things are the same. Dogs, tigers, and hippos are the same things because four legs and live birth. No, I think you're answering the question with the it means there's similarities. It don't mean they're exactly the same, right? Yes, you can find a lot of similarities in them animals because they have four legs. They live in birth. Same thing with humans, but we all have our own personalities, different characteristics, which make us different. So I think maybe you're confusing the verbiage. There are similarities, yes, between those things, if that's what you mean. But are they exactly the same? No, not exactly, because a tiger has many more characteristics a dog don't have. Tiger is a much raw, aggressive predator, say, than a dog. A hippo, same thing. You know, I'm just saying if we're talking about similarities and being the same. Similarities, just things you have certain things in common. Doesn't mean you're exactly the same. Hopefully that was your question. All right, what else we have? Xander says, that's why I don't like to consume media about spiritual spirits and deities, especially the spooky, because I don't want my own mind getting too attached to what I'm experiencing. You must, one of the goals and constant challenges on this path is making sure you have that harmony between your subjective consciousness and your objective consciousness. Because too many times over the years, I've seen people go crazy and get spooked out because everything becomes subjective. They want to start living out in the clouds, living out in space, in other galaxies and other planets, and they lose sight of everyday reality. A true harmonized practitioner can travel to astral realms, can have out-of-body experience, can travel to anywhere, any galaxy, any subjective universe, but still be harmonized and grounded in their everyday reality. Because that's the battle. Like when I was talking about the Aquaman movie in the beginning, this is your battle here in this mundane existence. How do you create harmony between your mortal mundane self and your divine God or goddess-like self? That's the challenge. So how do I indulge as a mortal, but not to the point where I devour and destroy myself? And then how do I embrace my immortality as a god or a goddess? Once you get that formula, you're going to be able to move in between any worlds you want and take shape or form and manifest how you see fit. I'm not going to get into that. Let's get into something else. But you get my point. Okay? See, I could be here talking to you right now, but I can also be somewhere else at the same time, if you understand what I'm saying. Because what I know as linear time is an illusion. It's cycles. And when you have the ability to break the barrier of time and sound, and especially time, because you know it's an illusion, you can be anywhere, any place, at any time. This is where they get this term. They claim God is omnipotent, omnipresent, and omniscient. Well, he can't be any of those things if you say that and then you say he's somewhere in the sky confined to this one place called heaven, because now you're contradicting yourself. He can't just be there if he's not here. And if he's not here and he's just there, then he's not over there. You see the stupidness in that? See, once you understand how powerful you really are and that your power exists outside of that bullshit, see, that religious motif keeps you control because it keeps you confined in person, place, or thing. God, devil, man, angel, prophet, scripture. Everything is programmed subliminally into through ABCs and 1, 2, 3s and repetition. That's what 3-dimension is. Think of something right now, and I know people will do it and make a fool of yourself if you want. We could start right now, 10:21 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I will challenge you to think of something that doesn't fall under the spectrum of person, place, or thing. Think of something in your mortal mind right now that is not a person, a place, or a thing. That's to show you how limited our thinking is. Think hard. Everything is going to fall under the category of person, place, or thing because you've been programmed along that ABC 1, 2, 3 person, place, thing. That's the motif. Religion programs you with that too, in that same aspect. Okay? Tiamat 444 says, my experiences with Tiamat happened before I had any knowledge. I had to seek after to complete the puzzle and understand. Okay. What else we got? Okay, this is a good question by Tiamat 444. Brother, do you have any advice for working with the rage of Tiamat, as in transmutation of sacred rage? Yes, and it could be done also with any deity you might be connecting with rage. But in this case, let's focus on Tiamat. Remember, when we're using the terms rage, anger, jealousy, hate, happiness, sadness, joy, these are all emotions, right? And as we know, there's an old saying, emotions is just the high, rapid movement of energy, right? It's that energy moving at a rapid pace or a fast motion. So this is why when you tap into a vibration, say of the emotion of anger or rage, it stirs a certain frequency or vibration in you. And in that vibration and frequency is a certain level of power. Okay. So to transmute that, for an example, if you know how to tap into the power of what's contained in the emotions of rage and anger, you can use that to fuel the intent for a more productive goal for yourself. Say to open a path that's being blocked psychologically, mentally, or emotionally. That can be done through transmutating the rage of Tiamat. To remove a blockage, it can be also used for destructive magic to protect yourself. right? So there's a multitude of facets that you can most definitely use it. But if you're just tapping into the pure rage of Tiamat and it's just altering your vibrational frequency in a disruptive way, where it's making you do things you shouldn't be doing, behave the way you shouldn't be behaving, acting out and carrying things that's out of character, out of pocket, then you're being consumed by Tiamat's rage. And the beauty of, and this is why, as we finish with that section, Tiamat is a very complex deity, because in her rage there is wisdom, but there's also destruction, death, and bloodshed. Sound familiar? So it's up to you to have the understanding of how to transmutate the vibrational frequency of the power of that rage, because you take the vibrational frequency and you channel it into something more productive. I can take that power and that energy that's in motion to open up a path that's being blocked. And this is why there's the bullshit when people say, keep cool all the time, suppress your anger, just block it out, meditate it away. No, that's the dumbest advice you can give anybody. Because what you're doing is forcing the act of resistance. And when you force hard that resistance, comes stronger persistence. Most people that don't know how to express their anger or transmute it and suppress it wind up blowing a gasket and going batshit crazy, because they keep everything bottled in and suppressed. And then what can also happen is it could fuck up your throat chakra. When you forcefully try to keep energy like that in and you just try to suppress it, what you're doing now is fucking with your raising of your kundalini energy via your chakra systems. Because now what happens is these last three of the main seven are important, because if that full expression cannot be expressed, it's going to be hard to absorb consciousness for the pineal, the ajna, the brow chakra, and then the crown can never be open to receive whole light beings and receive that pure knowledge or that pure intellect. And I just gave you the fast version of that. So Tiamat connecting to the dragon or the serpent energy or the awakening of the kundalini, it can be done through understanding her power, including her rage. Okay? She's complex. She's like a female. There's nothing. Hold on. Make sure that's not close. Hold on 1 second. It's a two-edged sword. There's nothing, to me anyway, as a male, there's nothing in the world more powerful, more magnetizing to me than a strong, intelligent, powerful woman who is grounded in herself, her spirituality, and is connected to the spirit world. It's a different energy. She carries herself different. She looks different. She feels different. Her personality is different. Right? There's nothing in the world like that to me as a male. It's the most beautiful manifestation of creation that now physical likes, that's preference, but you get what I'm saying. But there's nothing worse when you anger that type of woman and you set her over the deep end and she goes batshit crazy and unleashes a wrath of chaos, destruction, death, violence, blood, and turmoil. That essentially is Tiamat, people. If I had to sum it up in a nutshell. And when a woman could embody those attributes, when you could see that warrior, that violent, savage side of her nature, you know it's there. But she has that other side too, right? That's essentially what Tiamat is. That's what you're working with. Know that. Don't get it fucked up. Don't get it twisted, because it's how people get jacked up working with Tiamat, talking about, man, I mean, I can't tell you over the years, I've gotten handfuls of emails, how people just, my life, I don't know what I did something, and it's always related to Tiamat. Don't do it, people. Don't do it to yourself. All right. Kenneth says, can you access the Akashic records? I think it's records, records. It must be misspelled. With Tiamat energy. Well, it's not just with Tiamat energy, right? You can use any form of spiritual work connecting to certain deities to access it, but really it's about activating the DMT molecule. So whether you're using Tiamat or another system or spiritual practice, when you activate the DMT molecule, right, and you open yourself up to certain experiences and awareness, right? The Akashic records, as they say, uh, when you're talking about Tiamat, you would connect that to, for an example, I know people who have created ritual work centered around that with Tiamat, Kingo, and the tablets of destinies, which is the Akashic records. So, yes, ritualistically, you can create a ritual to access, and again, in this pantheon with Tiamat, the tablets of destinies or the Akashic records. And I've known a couple of people who have done it. I, per se, they haven't done anything particular in regards to that, but I can see how one would be able to. Yes, answer to your question is absolutely yes. Yes, the heart machine has been something. This is from TSRC 41. Yeah, the heart machine is something that people have been talking about in certain circles. Yes. And you best believe some of the stuff we're experiencing too is a combination of the natural process of what the earth's going through, but it's also them fucking with the weather. Because there's some weird shit that be happening now. This has been going on for years. Okay. This has been going on for years. They can make it rain 100%. If you're not familiar with the Heart Project, to others, you should go look that up. Um, so they have the ability to create weather satellites. They have the ability to create disturbances. And sometimes they're doing that for a multitude of reasons, right? They're experimenting, they're trying shit, they're as they always do, finding ways to manipulate and control, but they're playing a dangerous game. When you start fucking again with Mother Nature and trying to alter the natural process of nature, it's going to backfire you in a way you're not ready to deal with. That's Tiamat. They've been fucking around with shit like that for a long time, and what they're doing is they're awakening forces and disturbances that they're not going to be prepared to deal with. But the heart machine is, yeah, it's something that's been talked about a lot over the years in spirituality and consciousness. And not only that, they can also put viruses and diseases and sickness in the air using a lot of these machines. And you can get into even outside of the heart, crop dusting and all this other shit. Listen, man, the one thing, as I said, what's stopping them from poisoning the water supply? Think about it. Or is somebody else or something stopping them from doing it? And don't think they haven't thought about it, because they have. Okay. What else we got? Yeah, the way I've heard that too, the weather warfare thing, right? Because you see, also, it's crazy how out of nowhere, say in places like India and the Middle East, these cataclysmic earthquakes all of a sudden just poof out of nowhere, right? So something's going on here in the United States because, well, it's not just in the United States, but here, because this sun ain't letting up. This heat ain't letting up. It's crazy. Blade of Astard says, as someone who has worked through the Grimoire of Tiamat in the past, what are some prompts that we can do to take our work with Tiamat further on into more advanced work? Well, that's going to be established by, as you work through that, we're going to use what you're saying as an example. Let's just say after finishing that work in the Grimoire of Tiamat, a lot of that further work is going to be determined by how much you grew from that. What did you get from the work? Because, in my opinion, when you're doing work with a demon, a spirit, a god, or a goddess, you should get inspired to go further in that direction. And I know I get inspired to just randomly create ritual work on the spot. I would say tap into your natural creative intuitiveness. The most powerful ritual is the one you just spontaneously create. Now, I know I further enhance my work with any spirit or demon by establishing regular practices that I created on my own. So, for an example, I mentioned in one of the recent videos, like with Eastern Left Hand Path mysticism, I have a regular practice that I created, a ritual connecting with Shaitan and the Iblis and the Jinn after, doing certain work, structured work with them. And it's just, I go with my natural intuitiveness. And it becomes so powerful because when it's on the spot in the moment, that's the spirit of the demon communicating to you, giving you that inspiration. So I would just say follow your natural inspiration, and whatever whatever knowledge you got from working through that grimoire, and you should have received a lot of inspiration. If you really connected, you should have, and just keep expounding on that creative intuitiveness. Establish your own practices, meditations, personal rituals. Because obviously, if you followed the grimoire, you probably followed a lot of outline of the rituals, which is great. But now follow that creative intuitiveness. And that's the most powerful stuff you can create, is when you just get that instinct in the moment just to create. That's how you further, in my opinion, create more advanced work. Okay. Kenneth says, what's the correct role in a woman's life from a man spirit? Maybe you worded this wrong. What's the correct role in a woman's life from a spiritual man perspective? I'm not. I think I understand, but I don't want to. You might want to reword that. If I think what you're saying, but I don't want to waste time expounding. Retype that. I think you're saying, what's the role of a correct role of a woman in a spirit from a spiritual man's perspective? What's the correct role? If that's your question, I don't want to expound too on it. We're guessing. Again, that there's going to be probably a different perspective or opinion on that depending on the man, if I understand your question. Because what my perspective on that, right? There's not one, this is the tell all be all, the perspective that doesn't exist. I think each individual is going to have their own take on it, if that's your question. But let me see if you type something later. I don't want to guess. Maybe you meant something else. Yeah, that's true, Xander. I like that. You're right. When you ask if a woman when you ask a woman what's wrong, she says she's fine. You better pack up and leave town. 100%. Yeah, and this I mean, one of the weapons, like if you guys have ever seen the movie, speaking of Nikola Tesla, and we're talking a lot about these weather machines and energy weapons, and also the ability our military fucked around with, and they actually opened up. They created a time loop continuum because they didn't. When I this that confirms what I've been saying for years, that time is in cycles. It's not linear. So the Philadelphia experiment tried to show how they tried to use Tesla, how he was one of these scientists that advanced the ability to make objects disappear on radar, if you remember the Philadelphia experiment. But what happened is they got stamped in time. Part of them got stamped in the then, and some got stuck in the now, right? And that's what the movie's trying to show you. But it was all connected. It really was no separation, but it created the illusion because we think linear time, because linear time creates the concept that there's past, present, and future. Cyclical time, what we're perceiving as past, present, and future is all the now. See, they didn't factor that in, and it shows you how it goes haywire. So they've been taking this technology and fucking, like I told you, when you start fucking with nature and the natural cycle of things, you got to be careful, man. Shit can go chaotically haywire. All right, what else we got? Take a few more time we got. Yeah, we'll wrap this up soon. Can you guys? Oh, okay. Yeah. You might have to go out and go back in, Zen, if you can't see the chat. It's still here. I see it. Get the fuck out of here. Hold on. Let me go on the YouTube page. See, I can still see everything as I'm streaming from my StreamYard, but hold on. Let me go onto the YouTube page, see what's there. I can pull up both. Yeah, well, they fuck. You start talking about certain things, there's trigger words. I wouldn't be surprised if they fucked with it and erased it. Wouldn't surprise me. Let's see. Where's the chat? All right. Well, you're right. Wow. Yeah. Now it's not there. You're right. It's there, but only the last recent several things. So it doesn't surprise me. They fuck with it. But on my StreamYard, I still have the whole history here. That's crazy. But like I said, they do stupid shit like that. Okay. What else we got? One from a friend in the room. Can someone approach work with Tiamat with no prior experience in spiritual work? Like if they were drawn directly to Tiamat, even if they have no experience? That's a touchy subject. One, I wouldn't tell. I'm not going to tell anybody what they should or should not do because I never do that. That's not my job. Well, let's address that twofold. One, if you have no experience and you're just curious and you're interested, but there's no specific out of the ordinary thing that called you, definitely wouldn't recommend it. I think you'll do that person more injustice than justice. Now, if a person's having personal experience and being called in a very intense or very deep way, well, that's a whole nother story. That person probably could. But again, I'm not going to tell people what they should or should not do. That's the decision they would have to make for themselves, and they probably would have to experiment to figure the answer out to that. But if it's just a brand newbie that just might be interested or is fascinated with it, I absolutely would recommend them until they did further research, got a little more knowledge under their belt and experience, because this is not a spirit or demon you want to just dive right in with. All right. Xander says Calvary. I never heard that one. That's a new term to me. Calvary hippie church people. That's some new shit right there. You just dropped some new shit on me right there. I'm going to use that one. Dragged me to church once and they were foaming at the mouth and flipping around like fishes. Voodoo seemed more authentic. Yeah, I'm telling you. I've been invited years back to some of them Pentecostal churches, man. They some funny ass people, man. I swore one person, I thought he was saying, doing the Michael Jackson song, Mama say, Mama sa, Mama ku. So I swear I could have sworn I heard that shit. These motherfuckers just blurt anything out that comes to their mind. This shit is crazy, man. Yeah, now black holes. Yeah, that's getting into something else now. You're talking about portholes, dimensions, and space-time continuum, right? That's something that's getting into something else. But yes, all these things that we're describing that are natural in the universe and the galaxies and the multiverse and the natural process of things. And black hole, when a black hole sucks everything in, it literally wipes out or the complete existence of something, but it also can open a doorway or create something to a new manifestation or existence. There's something spiritual in that. Even the process of how our planets are formed, how stars die and explode, right? It's how our galaxy was formed, right? Sun is nothing but a star just close to the planet. That's all it is. And when that sun explodes, it'll form other planets and other galaxies, just like how our galaxy and the planets in our solar system in the Milky Way galaxy were formed through that same process. It's no different. And when we were going through the Anuma Alish, and the story of Tiamat, it gets into that creation story. When you're hearing Latmu and Lotmu, that's talking about planets. It goes through all the planets, a set and a pair of male and female. Again, there's that masculine, feminine, male, female. You got to be able to look at the esoterical breakdown of these stories because they're trying to explain something to you. Okay. Oh yeah, Xander. Yeah, she don't take no shit. The wife. Yeah, she don't take no shit. And she's Jamaican. Nah, yeah. I don't play. Yeah, you know who you're dealing with. You know females, and I know females, several. Nah. Trust me, she don't take no shit, and I can tell you that. And me, I can't be with weak, timid women. I don't like the and all that. That don't do well with me, because that's, to me, I'll run over you like a freight train. You won't even be ready for it. I just don't like that shit. You know, you got to be strong, not butch strong now. All right, no offense. I ain't trying to step on anybody's toes here. Oh, well, no, let me stop. But you get what I'm saying. All right, what else we got? Tiamat 444 says, I'm a woman, and Tiamat came to me as a child. The sacred rage is intense. I could tell by your earlier question. And I thought I mastered it somewhat, but sometimes lately, when I feel her deep rage within me, I still black out. Now, in a situation like yours, and there are people who have had similar scenarios, maybe with different spirits. I'm not just talking about with Tiamat. Sometimes there's special circumstances where people may have been called as a young child, maybe bonded, or have a very a unique or very personalized relationship with spirit or demon, and there's certain responsibilities that come with that. So having said that, I said that to say, so with your situation, because there's such a long history there, and because you're probably so linked in, that will never fully subside. And you're meant to actually feel that and tap into it like that. Only thing you really need to make sure you stay consistent at is just harmonizing that rage. Never having your mind, it's never going to completely dissipate because it's not supposed to. It's actually gives you one of your strengths. Because as I said earlier, in that power and their rage, there's knowledge, there's wisdom, there's power, there's understanding, and there's the growth of your overall intelligence, et cetera, et cetera. So once you harness the power and once you embrace it and understand it like that, you'll still have those moments, but it'll be, trust me, it'll be a lot easier to absorb. But it's never going to fully subside. Okay. Yeah, I agree with you, Xander. It's a very hazy. The sun, it's hot. It's humid. I'm talking about earlier today. I was on the West Coast of Florida before I returned here, South Florida. I was out in Fort Myers, Naples. Little guy was playing in a hockey tournament out there. And my God, I'm talking about just the regular temperature without the humidity. It was like 97, 98, 100 plus with the humidity. And it was just like hot. Even the air you breathe in was just pure heat. And when you're in open space and if you're in a blacktop surface or somewhere where that heat is just reflecting off of the surface, man, it's motherfucking, it feels like you in an oven, you know. But yeah, people, man, just be careful, man. Stay hydrated. Dehydration, dementia can kick in, being demented or delusional. Forget it, heat fatigue, stress, all that shit, man. Just be careful, man. Everybody be careful. Because something tells me, because of this imbalance, man, I think for those that live in cold places, I think it's going to be a fucking disaster of a winter. I can feel it. All right. Well, let's see. All right. So you furthered your question here. I'm going to take a couple more. I'm almost at the bottom here. So you meant, what's the correct role of a man to a woman spiritually? Well, it's a two-way street, right? First of all, we as men have to get past this, I'm the man. I'm not saying be a bitch, right? I'm not saying be a soft, timid dude, because women don't like that shit either. See, women like, to a degree where you don't cross the line and disrespect them, Women like an assertive man, a strong man, a man who's going to take charge, but not in the sense they take charge to totally disrespect them, right? So how can you be that strong, assertive man, but yet walk side by side with your female? So it's a two-way street. So sometimes how you do that is you might sometimes have a lot of people in relation. It's hard to compromise. You might have a difference of opinion. How do I compromise? When you're making decisions, you must factor her in that too, whether it's financially, family decisions, anything that's going to be life impacting. It's got to be, that's what what people fail to realize, and I talk about this for years, a relationship is also a business. See, people forget about that. Having a household is like running a business. Raising a family, having a household, could be a career, a business, a job. That is overall, it's like running an established business. So once the honeymoon phase is over, after all, it's always, like I said before, it's life. Everything's always great in the beginning when it's new, right? New pussy's good, new dick is good, the attraction's there. Then when you cultivate the relationship and you can build further, that you got something deeper than that, plus you got the good pussy and dick, all right, now you struck gold, right? But how do you keep that flowing and going? Because there's an old saying, once you start to live with a person and start to manage money with them, you start to really see who they are, right? So how do you build and cultivate a lifestyle factoring both of you guys into the equation as a whole as much as you can? Okay. So on a spiritual level, you both must be at least going down a path that's similar. You both can complement each other, because you might be growing in certain areas of your spiritual path that she isn't, and vice versa. So you guys can complement each other and see that and do things together where you can grow on that level, right? So it's a multifaceted thing, right? So there's many things to play that correct role, right? And it's about support, right? Support on all levels. And again, in order for that to happen spiritually, both must be understanding of where they are at on their spiritual path and journey. Because you can't at all play the correct role if you guys ain't clear on where you're at in that journey. And once you've established that, then there's a multitude of things you can do. But it starts first with the foundational things like respect, right? Understanding, compromise, communication, which is the most toxic thing and destructive thing that kills most relationships. Poor communication, because the communication is out of whack. And these really tie into spiritual roles too. So all of those factors play an important part. Xander says, Calgary, we're around in the 60s, hippie Jesus freaks playing guitars. Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah, I remember doing them. Yeah, seeing them people kumbaya and playing the guitars. And yeah, man. All right, that takes us to the end. It looks like I got to most of them. It's been a long day for me, folks. I was out traveling this morning on the west coast of Florida, return. I wanted to come on here, do a little something. But again, real quick, don't forget to check out my Patreon page, patreon.com/Baniti, Baniti, tier 3. If you join tier 3, that gives you access to the 3 private classes I do every month on Patreon, plus the group ritual. If you need to reach out to me for a spiritual reading or a consultation, hit me up in the email. Go on there on the ticker at the bottom of the screen. I will put up some new content tomorrow. It's Low Guy, fresh back from his hockey. Got him a little fresh cut. Get a fresh cut on him up. Look at that. Look at that. Show him the lines on the side. Show him the lines on the side.
Which one?
The lines on the side. Look at that. Now stop. I will be posting some more new short 20-30 minute videos. And again, remember, they're also audio uploaded on the Primordial Chaos podcast, which again, you can find wherever there's podcasts, Spotify for sure, Radio Public, Anchor.fm, wherever it is. I'm going to put the link in the videos. I keep forgetting. I'm going to do that from this video moving forward. I will put the link to the podcast right in the video so you guys will be able to click them. Actually, there's a post in the community section with the link, but I'll put it in the description box of all the videos. All right. Thank you guys for the support. I will see some of the Patreon family next Saturday live in the Saturday afternoon. No, I'm sorry, not Saturday. I'll see you guys Thursday night, 8 o'clock. For those on Patreon doing the class, I'll see you guys in class on Thursday. Remember Friday, next Friday, which is the 18th, we got Sister Kiona coming back. If you remember, she came a couple months ago, and we discussed her contribution to the Hecate book from the Temple of the Ascendant Flame. A powerful sister, a very, she captivates your attention. She knows her shit. She speaks from areas of wisdom. But yeah, no filters with her. So she's gonna give it to you raw dog. We're gonna be doing something with Lilith. I'm gonna word the title. It'll be posted. I might put that up tonight or tomorrow. But she'll be here. So we'll be live next Friday night, the 18th. I believe it's at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Looking forward to getting her back here. All right. I appreciate you guys, all the support. Thanks. Infernal blessings, and we will talk soon.